This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Over the last several days, we have been talking about the continued push for censorship under the guise of child safety, and the people involved within these NGO networks putting pressure not only on the judicial system, but also, externally to erode the First Amendment, which is a very serious thing. And as I look at the view count from the recent videos, I'm trying to figure out why this content is not reaching a broader audience. Is it because it's a topic that YouTube doesn't want more people to know about because they're complicit in it? Or is it because it's just not an interesting topic to my subscribers? You see, the mind games that are being played here with this information warfare is truly pervasive. Like, I can't tell if this is something that YouTube is doing or if indeed my audience doesn't find the content interesting. But what is interesting is that I've noticed the videos that I do on the tabloid stuff seem to get more views than videos that have actual real information that is important to each and every one of you. Part of me thinks that this is a tactic to deter people from talking about certain subjects, and I do think that this censorship piece is one of them because these social media platforms are very much involved. Or it could very well mean that the content sucks. I mean, that is a possibility too. The videos might not be so engaging or boring or whatever. But I can confidently say that what I've been covering over the last couple days is indeed correct. In fact, everything that I've been telling you since 2023, when Harry and Meghan came out and switched their tune to focusing on the kids, no longer mis and disinformation, but focusing on the kids, using it as a guise to hide behind the continued effort to erode the First Amendment. I've been on the money since 2021. My track record is pretty good right now. A few days ago, Mike Benz did a live stream, and a clip from that live stream has been circulating on social media. And we're going to go through it so it can validate to you and to others that what I'm telling you here is the real story. This is the real story of what Harry and Meghan are about.
Here's what's going on here. This idea that Meta, Google, X, TikTok can't be in control of their own algorithms, because if they are, they're going to maximize for engagement and kids will get addicted and will have mental health problems.
The one thing that always stands out for me is, yes, these platforms are addictive. I think we all accept that and agree. But as someone who works within those companies, and someone who designs them especially, because obviously they're not going away, new ones are going to be created, then do not send, or stop, please stop sending children content that you wouldn't want your own children to see. And I think that's a really simple request, and it's an easy fix. But again, as the dads up here said, well, it's all about the bottom line. Right. But if the shareholders of these companies can accept that they're going to get a little less profit out of it to make it a safe space, then that would stop the suffering.
What that does is that removes the sovereignty of the platforms to determine the algorithms. Well, if the platforms aren't sovereign, who is? And what will happen is you will have a government regulatory board staffed up by NGOs and civil society organizations who will be in charge of both auditing the algorithms and reforming, telling the companies how they need to reform their algorithms or design their platforms in order to be in compliance with the laws.
In yesterday's video, I talked about something that was not getting much press in the news with Ofcom. It was about X bending the knee to the Online Safety Act and being compliant with removal or content moderation of posts that are deemed hateful or terrorist related. And Ofcom brought in a few of these biased NGOs like the CCDH to do the work that Mike Benz is describing, which is auditing X and reporting it to Ofcom for the content to be removed and taken down. If you didn't see yesterday's video, I strongly recommend it so you can understand better what's happening here.
So this takes the power over the algorithm that the tech companies had operating in competition with each other in a private market, and it gives all the power to the NGOs. Okay? Because the NGOs are that sticky class. They will be considered the subject matter experts. You will have folks from Brookings, never mind Brookings Intelligence Project and 50 years of CIA work. You will have experts from Tech Policy Press. Oh, we've spent 20 years studying internet governance issues. We're the only ones equipped to be able to interpret the regulations for how design can be safe and equitable. And then you look at, okay, well, who is on the Tech Policy Press promoting this? Tech Policy Press, who's on their staff? Dean Jackson from the National Endowment for Democracy. Dean Jackson, one of the main stars of the censorship industrial complex, working for 2 CIA pass-through organizations. NED, which was created by the CIA, and the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, which was run for 7 years by Bill Burns, the CIA director.
And who was also part of the NED that was involved with Harry and Meghan on this crusade to get the keys back to being the gatekeeper of information? That would be CEO of Rappler, Maria Ressa.
It's a war of information, right? One of which you've both been warning of for 5 years, more?
It's really, I became a journalist because I knew information is power and I wanted to fight for justice. We shine the light. That's the mission of journalism. This time shows you more than at any other time that information really is power. And what happened, what triggered it is news groups lost our gatekeeping powers to technology. And technology abdicated responsibility for protecting the public sphere.
These journalists have done so much damage to the public with their lies, with their constant gaslighting and virtue signaling as if they're holier than thou and are entitled to be the ones who tell you how to think, what you can say, and they don't like that power has been taken away. This is the same Maria Ressa that showed up to that university in Columbia to participate on the panel with Harry and Meghan for the path towards a responsible digital future back in 2024. And the subject matter there was focused on rebuilding the digital landscape and protecting the youth from the online harm. Of course, when back in 2020, when nobody knew what they were up to, this was about rooting out mis and disinformation and censoring people's voices because they weren't the gatekeepers anymore of the information. But now all of a sudden they care about the kids. Right.
Okay. Who's on the board of Tech Policy Press? Oh, Renee DiResta, Stanford Internet Observatory censorship czarina, who started her career in the CIA.
Renee DiResta, another person Harry and Meghan work with. Now, this Renee DiResta is very vocal in government spaces. She helped influence the Online Safety Act. She helped influence the EU's DSA. She even helped influence here in the United States when they were trying to, stop mis and disinformation. She also helped with that Aspen Commission on Information Disorder report that was put out on how speech should be regulated with Prince Harry. If you want to learn a little more about Renee DiResta, go ahead and look up the Alabama Senate race and her relationship with Sleazy E's friend, Reid Hoffman.
Renee, sort of switching to you for a second. First, it's really nice to see you again after our first little meeting last month. But your work is also so impressive and so needed as well, as is your remarkable career of all the places where you've worked, all the places that you've been, and all the experience that you've gained from that as well. You don't just dig deep. You dig the deepest, as far as I can tell. And in most cases, into the really unpleasant areas. But this is really critical work that you're both doing. But Renee, you've informed policymakers, civil society leaders, academic institutions, and so many more. How have online platforms, and by extension, some news outlets, enabled the spread of misinformation or propaganda?
Yeah, so as Maria was describing this bottom-up activism, originally social platforms were a way for people to connect with each other. And there was an explosion in extraordinary social movements that came about as a result of that in the early days, right? And so we don't want to imply that that act of connecting people or that act of democratizing access, the ability to create content, the ability to disseminate it, the ability to bypass gatekeepers, candidly, to make your voice heard, particularly if you were a member of a community that didn't have access to press. This was a global phenomenon that happened on social platforms that they really enabled. But the downside of that, the unintended consequence, is when you connect everybody and when you make it possible for information to spread instantaneously, not everybody who is endowed with that power uses it responsibly. And so what you see is fake people begin to participate in the conversation. Fake media properties begin to spring up.
Recognize that she's insulting independent journalism and media.
Because as Maria mentioned, this is a tool of power. And if you can control the narrative and if you can dominate the share of voice, then you can achieve real world objectives.
Oh, Renee DiResta, Stanford Internet Observatory censorship czarina, who started her career in the CIA out of college. Tech Policy Press is combating disinformation around elections and the geopolitics of technology. It's a CIA work masquerading as a tech ethics. It's like Ellsworth Toohey trying to stop the concentration of power in tech platforms by giving more power to the governments to delegate that power to the CIA blob of NGOs. This is how this works every time. You think, oh, the government made this rule, the government's in control. No, what happens is the government sets up a regulatory scheme. You've got government regulatory scheme. This is the law of the land. You need to meet the following 5 variables to have fair and equitable, non-addictive algorithms to protect children. And it imposes all these costs on private sector businesses. But how do the private platforms satisfy the government? Well, what you have are your civil society organizations.
And that's where you have Archwell Fugazi Public Charity, now known as Archwell Fugazi Philanthropies, and CCDH, as well as SPLC, playing their part.
NGOs, university center experts, and the government regulatory scheme puts the civil society organizations, the NGOs, in charge, and the private platforms have to satisfy them so that they can tell the government that these people are cool.
And that's the power that the UK Labour government is now giving Imran Ahmed from the CCDH. This is the same organization that wanted to kill Musk's Twitter and has been working with Harry and Meghan in their so-called quest to reduce online harms. This is the guy who we're trying to kick out of the United States for censoring American voices like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So now Ofcom, an agency that's operating under currently the Starmer government, has placed CCDH as one of those so-called approved civic society experts to watch and monitor the X platform. Okay, you don't get any more biased than this.
So it shifts the power from private citizens running a business to the CIA infiltrated, coordinated civil society organizations. Okay. This is the way the EU Digital Services Act works. This is the way the UK Online Safety Act works. This is the way the Brazilian censorship court works. You think it's Alexandre de Moraes who's just scrolling Twitter and sees something he doesn't like and takes it down? In Brazil, no. There's 65 NGOs as part of the court's combating disinformation task force who are in charge of it. 9 of them have this superpower kill switch capacity. And 5 of the 9 are funded by NED, the CIA. So it's taking the power that once was here and moving it from private citizens into this CIA, Department of War, USAID, and their big business benefactors, donor drafter class, donor drafter dealster class, so that they control the flow of online content rather than private businesses competing against each other to create the best platforms.
And that's what it boils down to for Harry and Meghan and all these leftist lunatics. They want to control the narrative. It's always been about controlling the narrative. You notice that's a central theme with Harry and Meghan, is controlling their preferred narrative. Doesn't matter if they're lies, they're going to tell you what to believe and what to think.
That's the plan here. And while it's under a kid's safety, it gives them control over addictiveness of the algorithm writ large. Their target audience could be 35-year-old politically minded people ahead of elections. And they can just say, well, if you allow this content, it could make a 15-year-old addicted. And what they're talking about is Andrew Tate memes or something, because they think that Andrew Tate is a proxy for Trump in the US, in Europe. You understand? That's the play here. And it's sick, and it's disappointing that there's conservative motion on this.
This is exactly what I've been telling you the whole entire time. The fact that we have bipartisan support here is because these politicians don't want to look bad for pushing back on bills that on the surface are supposed to keep kids safe. From an optics perspective, saying no to a bill that is supposed to reduce online harm, doesn't make you look so good. And this is why, time and time again, Harry and Meghan exploit vulnerable people. Remember when Harry kept the veterans on stage when he accepted that Pat Tillman Award? And that was because he didn't want to get booed. It's the same concept here.
Now, notice also from Tech Policy Press, on board, Renee DiResta, CIA. Staff, Dean Jackson, CIA. The legal incentives to hold big tech accountable 3 months ago. Okay, so it's a CIA press outlet about wresting control from big tech to give it to us, the blob, but she's also Policy Intern at Issue 1. You guys know what Issue 1 is?
Oh, you bet we do, Mike. Now, if you've been a subscriber to TRG, then you'll remember that I've talked about this Council for Responsible Social Media where Jory Craig, Meghan's consultant, who they pay $140-something thousand a year to generate the Fugazi report on the harms that are happening online to kids. You also have Maria Ressa again. You have Meghan's bestie, Tristan, from Center of Humane Tech.
As we've also discussed with, the tech space and online harms has been important just prior to working specifically with families. And it's Tristan Harris, who's a friend of ours that we started working with a few years ago, founder of Center for Humane Technology. And
this is also the same Tristan that participated in the Time 100 back in 2020, but the focus was on mis and disinformation. Seen here with Marxist Safiya Noble from UCLA and author of Algorithms of Oppression, who also was a commissioner with Harry on the Aspen Commission on Information Disorder, the report that they cranked out on how to silence voices and penalize people for speech. And also, how could we forget that Safiya Noble was the author of that ridiculous article in the Cut magazine titled The Fight for Meghan's Life, supporting and backing Christopher Boozy's Fugazi report, slamming all of us. And all the while, this is going on, collecting checks. Let's not forget, this woman was awarded the first NAACP Archwell Digital Civil Rights Award for like $100,000. She also got a grant from Archwell for another 100 and something thousand. And I'm pretty sure she got paid for her cameo appearance in the Netflix mockumentary Propaganda, fabricating this story of Meghan being trolled and the online hate by the middle-aged white women who are white supremacists. Like I said from the beginning, when Harry and Meghan all of a sudden showed up in New York in 2023 for this summit, like it came out of nowhere, is when I realized what was going on. And it's clear, everybody in Harry and Meghan's orbit that they've been working with all have shifted their tune to focusing and making it about mental health and the kids. But getting back to issue 1, this group should be no surprise to you, as we've talked about it.
Responsible Social Media Council looks to bridge divides on tech. The newly minted Council for Responsible Social Media, set up by the nonpartisan nonprofit Issue 1. Okay, so Issue 1 created the Council for Responsible Social Media, which is focused on hate speech, misinformation, national security, and children's safety. Hey, one of these things is not like the other, right? National security, speech policing, and children's safety. You think they give a flying fuck about the kids? This is literally the meme. In order to get social media platforms to take down misinformation, they're holding up children's safety and national security. I'm sorry. Good thing I saved the meme. National security and kids' safety. How would you like your control of internet speech wrapped? They literally do the fucking meme. Who's on the Council for Responsible Social Media, set up by Issue 1? Well, wouldn't you know, 2 former heads of the Central Intelligence Agency. Leon Panetta, head of the CIA, and Porter Goss, who was also the head of the CIA, together with the former head of the Pentagon, Chuck Hagel, and the CISA cyber censorship architect, Chris Krebs.
Chris Krebs' name should be very familiar to you because he was one of the co-chairs with Katie Couric for the Aspen Commission on Information Disorder with Prince Harry. Let's not forget he also was a part of CTEL, which is the Cyber Threat Intelligence League, working with Sarah Jane Turp from the UK on these mis and disinformation campaigns and monitoring. I've shared all of this with you. You've seen it. Please go back and watch the psychological warfare series that I did on the goal to achieve this cognitive security. For those interested, it's in the playlist titled Stand Up for Free Speech under video 66, 67, and 68. The intent is to control the information and those algorithms to push information that they want you to see. They don't want you thinking for yourselves. This is the whole point to what they're doing.
Chris Krebs, not one, but 2 different CIA directors pushing through this guise to achieve this end state of having the CIA, DOD, USAID control over content on the platforms rested under the guise of a government regulatory regime to stop kids from getting addicted to this. It's fucking sick.
And there you have it. Mike Benz confirming everything that I've been telling you over the last couple days of what's happening here. Even though these recent videos that have been put out on this subject aren't getting the traction that I had hoped for, at least I know and feel good that the content that I'm giving you is correct. And that you are seeing for yourself that it's not me coming up with these crazy conspiracy theories. You have Mike Benz validating everything that I've been telling you. And I didn't see this video until this morning, so it does feel good to see that the work that I'm doing is justified and that I need to keep going, because at times when you feel like nobody's listening to you and nobody's paying attention. So I thought I would share this with you. If, those that still have doubts, please let me know in the comment section why you don't think that Harry and Meghan have been tied into all of this. Like, explain to me all of the evidence that I presented over the years. Tell me why it doesn't qualify. I would love to know. Anyhow, that's all I have for you today. I'm sure I'll be back a little later on since this video is being posted earlier, but I just wanted to share this with you because maybe people don't take what I say seriously. It's nice to have validation of someone who is an expert in the space backing up the information that I'm telling you. So hopefully this reinforces the seriousness of what they're doing. Anyway, I would love to know your thoughts. What do you guys think? Why do you think people are not watching these videos? Are they not interested? Do you think YouTube has something to do with it? Definitely let me know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.